Hello everybody, my name is Stefan from the Contentful Developer Relations team, and if you have watched the last episode, you know what you see in front of you. So in the last episode what we did is we deployed this site on Netlify, so mytodaylearned.netlify.com, and set up a new Contentful space and created a GitHub repository without a single file on your computer. So all we did yesterday is described in this tutorial here. So it's mytodaylearned.netlify.com/tutorial. And basically the magic happens after you press this button. And when you're interested in learning more, I recommend you to watch the last video, which is linked in the description below. So what I want to show you today is how you can start developing this site, because, well, so far you don't have any files on your computer, and this is just on Netlify. So you can go to the new repository, which you should now have in your GitHub. You can copy this here, and then you can do git clone and paste it. I already did that, and what I also did already in this repository is that I did npm install, because this takes a moment. So let's just open this in my editor, and my editor of choice is Visual Studio Code. And the first thing to make that work is we have to define the environment variables that we stored in Netlify already. Remember, when we go to Netlify, we see that there is the content delivery access token and the space. And we have to do basically the same thing. So let's just rename env.sample to .env. This is convention to store environment variables. And here you see already the environment variables that the application wants or needs. And there's one more now in the mix, and I will show you in a minute why this is needed. So let's go to Contentful and to the API keys sections. And here are the API keys that we created yesterday. So let's just copy this one. Oops. Let's paste this here as the space AD. Then we have the content delivery API token, right? The content delivery API in Contentful is to retrieve data that is really published, so ready to go out there. And then we have the content preview API, which gives you also changes that are pending or not published yet, which can come in handy when you work locally. So now we have defined these three tokens. Now we can execute start. And this already gives us now a new localhost 3000, which you see here. So, but how does that work initially to deploy that to Netlify easily? When you go to Netlify, you will find build settings here, and there's one command that will be executed on every, in this case, Contentful content change or code change in GitHub. So there's npm run build. This command is defined here, and this uses React scripts and builds. So this is basically, this project is based on Create React App. So if you want to read more on how all of these work, I recommend to just use to read the documentation for Create React App. There are not many changes. And this script then will create a directory, which is called build, which then will be deployed to your URL or your chosen subdomain on Netlify. Cool. So now we have the site available. And you remember when you watched the episode yesterday, there was a little message popping up initially. And let's just enable this little message. So what you see now is that you're set, cool, but what you should do first, and we did that in the last episode, is you should revoke and remove your content management token, because remember, it has write access, and it has not only write access, it has the same access as the user that created it. But we already did that, and this was why this message disappeared, because all the code cleanups are not necessarily needed when you just want to write some learnings down, right? So the first thing then is, all right, there is a post install script inside of the package.json, which we can get rid of. And this calls a setup shell script. So let's go to setup.sh. And this is basically where all the magic happened. When we deployed to Netlify for the first time, this script was executed, and it checked for a content management API token, because this script sets up the new Contentful space. And without this token, you cannot read anyways. And it checks if the environment variable Netlify build base is available, because you don't want to run this script again when you're in local environment. So I'm kind of just checking, is this running on Netlify? Cool, if so. Then it's doing a curl to get a certain entry in Contentful and just checks if it's available. So this is basically the check for me to see if the space is empty and ready to be initialized. And then it uses the Contentful CLI that you can get in your own environment using Contentful, using npm install -g Contentful CLI. And then it's using the import command, which uses Contentful import under the hood. Cool. But this all is done already, so we can just get rid of that because we are already up and rolling. So what's next? Let's do npm start again. So let's go here. Cool. We remove the post and cell scripts, remove the scripts directory. Then there's this Contentful folder, right? So this Contentful folder includes an export JSON, which is basically the base to the data that went into your new Contentful space. And as we did that already, we can also remove this one. And then there is the last step, which is the component for this message here, which we now can get rid of too. So let's go here, and it's called success message. Cool. And then it is required here, so we can get rid of this one, and then we can remove it from the components in the code base. So, and now we are already ready to go. So what you could now do is you could get rid of this tutorial that is also available here, or get rid of this box. But one thing that I still want to show you is that, did you see that? When I refresh this page, you see initially a loading spanner. When you check the site that is on Netlify, you don't see this loading spinner. And the reason for that is that the deployed result is actually a static site with everything in it already, whereas the local development environment is just a single page application. And why is that cool? So first of all, you don't have to wait for all the sites to be rebuilt. And the feedback loop when you do changes is also way snappier and easier to work with. But also there's another thing that is different, which is that when you have a look at the network panel, you will see that this one, the local environment, is using the preview API. Whereas this one here is using the content delivery API. Which means that now, as you're in your local environment, what you can do is you can just mess around and change a little bit the data. So let's say hello world from the screencast, but from my local machine. These changes are now available. Dun, 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 dun. Which one did we change? Overflow or ellipsis. These changes are now available in your development environment, which means you get instant feedback. I think this is really nice. And when we now publish this one, we will see a new build that is triggered in Netlify, so that these changes will be available in the internet also in just a few seconds. And this is basically what I want to show you, what I wanted to show you. This project is now ready for you to get tweaked and change it to your needs. And if you have any questions, just let me know. I will write a tutorial series on how this is built with React in detail in the upcoming days. And see you later.